Um, Guys, very interesting discovery. So what I've done is I've analyzed a lot of long calls that got tracked since the beginning of July, right? And that's the report on the data. Uh, and there are some very revealing points. Now, it's got a mix of data from a lot of different people and different calls in different industries. So I wouldn't really look hard at the beginning of the report. It just compares 2 weeks and looks at the volume of conversations and some data in it, and it scores everything and breaks down different pieces of data. Now it says that Mark's performance dropped in this week, but I understand that happened because the system marked his phone number to several different people, some of which had only started this week. But it also shows different things about improving performance as well. Now, the single most important takeaway from the data is that the energy number, the energy of the call, is the biggest leading indicator of success. The higher the energy on the call, the higher the success rate is. So it's either transfer or schedule. So if there's one thing to learn from the past 2 weeks of performance is that energy has to be like above 6. Like 7 or 8 is where we want to have it. And if you want, I can filter down all the sevens and eights, so you guys could listen to those calls and see what's considered 7 or 8 energy level. Now, the next thing is this outcome before mechanism, right? Which means you pitch the outcome first and then explain how it works, why it works, etc. Another important piece of data is how objections were handled. And the objection handling basically comes to an ARC formula, right? Acknowledge, reframe, continue, close, convert, whatever. Very important to not just blindly repeat the script, but acknowledge the objection, learn the objection handling scripts, the objection handling strategies that you have, and work with the prospect appropriately. Now, the next area to improve and to convert more calls into actual callbacks or transfers is handling objections, right? And so what this data tells us is the following. Now, obviously, this data analyzes conversations. Most of them had objections, so the longer the conversation is, the more objections is in it. So I wouldn't say that having objections is necessarily good, but what this analysis shows is where the objection handling can be improved, right? So, single most important thing is an email objection because you will get it a lot. You have been getting it a lot. The email objection should be turned into a scheduled callback, meaning if they ask you for an email, two things you must do is first, you have to ask what is the single most important thing you want to see in the email. Most likely they will say price, which is good. I will explain why. And secondly, when you're asked for an email, you have to ask um, when is a good time to review that email and ideally suggest a callback time, such as, hey, I totally understand you want to have a look at this information, but we both know, you're a busy person. You're not going to look at it unless we schedule a time to look at it together. So I don't mind sending you an email. Just let me know one thing, one single most important thing you want to see in that email so that I can explain it to you, because we're dealing with a new technology and we have a lot of successful case studies for companies very similar to yours. And it's worth seeing it to believe it, because I understand anyone can pitch, anyone can send you anything in an email, but what I'm gonna show to you next time we speak will tell you way more than you will ever be able, to gain from any email. Does that make sense? How about tomorrow at 2 p.m.? It will only take 15 minutes. Something like that. I would ideally not even send them an email until that time, right? But that is a bit more complicated. Let's leave it at that. Handle the email objection in a way that results in either scheduling an exact time, understanding what the one single most important thing that you want in that email. And why I'm specifically emphasizing one thing, because it helps their brain to focus on the one thing that is actually important to them, so that you can actually understand what their real single biggest objection is, so you can handle it in your email and in your meeting, or so that you could handle that objection straight there on the call. Unless the prospect is like super busy, they want to bounce like right away. They're like genuinely sitting, on a roof with a hammer or whatever, with a power tool. Like they cannot literally speak to you or like uh, log onto the internet. So that's about the email objection, because there's a lot of them and there's a lot of missed opportunity there. Specifically, a lot of those calls end up in limbo, meaning it's not a no, it's not a yes, it's not a transfer, it's not a scheduled callback. Okay. Similarly, callback later, almost the same thing. What is the one thing you still want to know? How about 2 p.m. tomorrow, or 3 p.m. Friday? Gotta always close them on something, even if you're closing them on revealing their number one objection, number one question, single biggest, most important question. So when you tell people to give you the one thing, they actually give you the most important thing that's on their mind. Like, imagine this: if you're asking someone, "Hey, how you doing?" Very open-ended question. What are they going to tell you? I'm all right. If you tell them, like, what's the single biggest annoying thing that troubled you this week? It's very easy to answer, you know? Oh, my wife has been giving me problems, or my dog is sick, and blah blah blah. It's a good hack. Anyway, what's interesting is when prospects ask about price, most of those calls result in either schedules or transfer. It doesn't mean that you need to talk about price necessarily, right? But what it tells us is, you know, there's something to talk about, which results in either scheduled or transfer call. Next thing I would look at really is not pitching uninterested prospects, like those that say that we're generally not interested, we're either booked out, we have enough on our plate, we're not planning to grow, etc. So it's best to save your time, politely thank them and wish them a good day, take a break, and dial the next prospective client, prospective prospect. I will provide, again, the objection scripts, objection handling scripts for those.